We have our start times for Iowa football. Kickoff times announced for the non-conference slate, but the question remains, when is Iowa going to get a night game at Kinnick? We'll talk about that in the conference slate today. Locked on Hawkeye.
You are Locked on Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked on Hawkeyes podcast, your daily source for Hawkeye information, talking the world of the Hawkeyes each and every day. I've been covering the Iowa Hawkeyes for over 20 years in the radio in the state of Iowa, including currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. You can hear me each weekday from noon to 2, talking the world of sports with Ken Miller and stations in Iowa City, the Cedar Rapids, Quad City, Sioux City, and our flagship 106.3 KXNO. Miller and Condon weekdays on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. Today's episode of Locked on Hawkeyes is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We're going to be joined by Elliot Clough, formerly of Rivals, and now out looking to continue himself on the Hawkeye beat. Still breaking news, and he was the one that had the information earlier in the week about Tim Dwight joining the staff over at Iowa City High. We'll talk a little bit about that, some Hawkeye news and notes, including Iowa basketball and what happened with Williamson, his commitment that is no more to be the backup point guard for Ben McCollum's squad. We got some other Hawkeye news and notes also to get into today, but we begin with the news. Iowa football kickoff times have been announced, and that is a good thing. When you get those kickoff times, it just feels like we're getting closer and closer to football season. That leads certainly to a lot of excitement, myself included, as we inch our way through the college football slate. So not every game has been announced at this point, but we did get a number of them with the TV partners that have been announced, including the whole slate in the non-conference. And a non-conference slate that isn't anything wild, crazy, anything like that. It's Iowa State and 2 bye games, including 2 bye games that are kind of odd on the surface. So we start with the opener against Albany on August 30th. First, an early start to the season. We'll get that August Saturday start this year. And with it, we get a 5 o'clock kickoff time with the matchup against the Great Danes from Albany. Weird. So Albany comes in pretty bad, down FCS team. This is not one of the powers that we've seen recently out of the Missouri Valley Football Conference. This is a program that certainly has not played at that kind of level. But you couple it with the 5 o'clock central kickoff time. It's on FS1. What's this going to be like? This is game number 1, but for us tailgaters, it's still the preseason. I mean, we've had so many of these games, these early season games. All right, maybe you'll get a 2:30, something like that. A 5 o'clock tip-off. People are going to be struggling. You couple that with the heat that's normally there for the first game. This is the game every year that I like to bring my kids to. Not sure that's going to be the case here. That 5 o'clock kickoff got me a little bit nervous for game number 1 and what should be a Hawkeye romp. Now, they go to Ames in week 2 in the matchup against Iowa State. And Iowa has dominated this series in Ames recently. Have to go back now a decade ago since the last time the Hawkeyes lost in Ames. But we also know how incredibly close that these games are. This is an 11 a.m. kickoff. And I know for a lot of us, we'd love to flip-flop these 2 start times, right? Get that Albany opener done at 11 a.m., and then you come back and get the 5 o'clock kickoff time for the matchup against the Cyclones. That will not be the case, though, as Iowa will be going with an 11 a.m. kickoff. Now, there is some good news that does come along with it. It starts with what you have with Iowa State and the matchup on Fox that will be the big noon kickoff. That means that the whole crew is going to be there. The likelihood that we'll get Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt also on the call. Gus Johnson, for me, not what he once was. As a broadcaster, when he was back working for CBS and doing the NCAA tournament, I was a big fan. His football calls not quite at the same level, but that's something that overall you're going to have to certainly look at and certainly going to have to make happen with the Cy-Hawk matchup. And then after that, it'll be another night game as UMass will be the next opponent. Quick timeout here for a moment. Stay right there. I'll be back in just a second. Got to help my little guy. Okay, we're back. Apologies on that front. Back at it, UMass, another night game at Kinnick Stadium. So you get 2 night games, 5 o'clock and 6:30 for the first 2. but you want those Big Ten night games. I mean, that's where the juice is. So other start times that were announced, and this one's interesting. Iowa traveling out to Rutgers on a short week. It'll be a Friday night game in Piscataway. Fox will have the call, 7 o'clock Central for the kickoff time against Rutgers. That is one. Rutgers is improving. Greg Schiano has built the program back up. He is the perfect coach for that program. He's about the only coach, feels like, that can win at that program. And though they're not great, this is not an elite team. This is also not a team that you can sleep on. But the opportunity is there for Iowa to get off to a really good start. And if they go to Ames again and win, and they can get this road win in Piscataway, it sets up an opportunity for Iowa to be a big part of the conversation. You get that win against Rutgers, you come home to take on Indiana. Now, if you think Iowa's non-conference slate isn't very good, take a look at the Indiana Hoosiers, what they're going to play in their schedule in 2025. It opens up with a matchup against Old Dominion. They return home in week 2 for Kennesaw State. Week 3, Indiana State. That's right. They're non-conference, Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State. And of course, a year ago, they ripped off that incredible out-of-nowhere 11-1 season. A non-conference slate that wasn't very difficult, and a conference slate that wasn't very difficult either. They had Ohio State on the road. They lost that game 38-15. They played Michigan. That was the only other relatively tough game. But we'll see how different the waters are going to be this year for Indiana. They have spent in the portal. They have set themselves up well. But before they come to Iowa City, they got a big matchup again against Illinois. Illinois, a team a lot of people really like coming into the season. Some people have the Illini as high as a top 10 team coming into the year. So that's what Indiana will face before they make their way to Iowa City. That will be one of 3 kickoff times, either 11 a.m., 2:30, or 3 o'clock. So don't settle your plans too early for the matchup against the Hoosiers, which will be the homecoming game. So that's what we have on the surface for the first 5 weeks. We know the first 4 kickoff times officially: Albany at 5, Iowa State 11 a.m., 6:30 for UMass, 7 o'clock Friday night against Rutgers, and then the aforementioned 11, 2:30, or 3 for Indiana. Then we get TBD. Wisconsin in Madison. That's October 11th. Home for Penn State. Home for Minnesota. Home for Oregon. Back-to-back home games with a bye week sprinkled in there before the matchup against the Ducks. Now, if you had the choice right now, you could choose, and you could call up the TV networks and say, I want this to be a night game in Kinnick Stadium, but you only get one choice. Out of those 3, Penn State, Minnesota, Oregon, what are you choosing? For me, it's Oregon. And I know there's plenty of people out there that say, well, you'd like to get maybe the Ducks early, have them have an 11 a.m. kickoff time, which would be 9 a.m. with their body clocks. I can get that part of it, but there's just something lingering in the back of my mind that Iowa, they're going to have a shot. Maybe it's what Wisconsin, a bad Wisconsin team last year, did against the Ducks in Camp Randall. That gives me that kind of hope, but there's just something that continues to swim around in my mind. I would love to have the national spotlight that goes along with it, with the matchup against Oregon. But let us know in the comment section, if you're watching on Twitter, what would be your choice? Night game at Kinnick in the conference slate between Penn State, Minnesota, and Oregon, what you would choose to be the night one in Kinnick Stadium. We do know that Iowa will be going on a Saturday, thank goodness, against USC. Last year, that Friday game against UCLA obviously didn't go very well on the field for the Hawkeyes, and an injury early on to Brendan Sullivan, a defense that couldn't stop the rush. It was just a bad performance against the Bruins. This time it'll be heading over to face USC, but I know a lot of people that were planning on going, but because the game got moved to Friday, just were not able to swing the trip. That was not the case here. So this will be either a 2 o'clock or 2:30 Central kickoff. That means a noon kickoff, or 12:30 out there on the West Coast against USC. Iowa has historically struggled on the West Coast. Outside of the Holiday Bowl victory they got against USC, this has not been a place that has been good. And yes, Rose Bowls have been ugly. Regular season matchups against Arizona, Arizona State recently have not gone very good. And of course, last year's game against UCLA. So you got that one on the slate. TBD for the Michigan State matchup, November 22nd. And then it will conclude the regular season Black Friday against Nebraska, and another 11 a.m. game for that one. CBS will have the broadcast. I love the window. I love the opportunity to kind of open up the college slate on Black Friday with Iowa. It's become a nationally renowned game. Nebraska is a big part of that because they play traditionally on Black Friday, dating back to Colorado, and before that against Oklahoma. But good to have the Hawkeyes part of that slate, and it's been even better as Iowa's played well in that series. So those are the kickoff times. Again, let us know your thoughts on what you'd like to see for that Big Ten night game at Kinnick Stadium, what you're hopeful for that we'll get from the TV partners down the line. Elliot Clough going to join us next, formerly of Rivals, and now out looking for a new gig. We'll talk a little bit about that as ownership changes at Rivals have changed his equation, but we'll talk some sports. He broke the news. Tim Dwight's going to be joining the staff at Iowa City High. What does that mean in a sideline that's going to look a whole lot different? Plus, we'll talk Iowa basketball with Elliot Clough. We'll do that as we continue. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Well, the NBA playoffs are in full swing. We get a Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals on Saturday, every night delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot, a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off or while the game's going on. They got player props. They got performance trends. Same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Karl Anthony Towns went off in Game 5. Does it happen in Game 6? I don't think so. So I'm taking a look at a bunch of unders on Cat. You can do the same. Find what you like, or just wait until the game's going on. You can do that in-game, live prop bets, mid-game based on how the action is unfolding. You can do it all on FanDuel. New to FanDuel, it's a perfect time for you to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Elliot Clough is about to join us. First of all, congratulations on the Tim Dwight scoop that he's joining Mitchell Moore's staff over at City High in Iowa City. That's a good get and a good scoop on your part. Good to talk to you, Elliot. How are you?
I'm good, Ken. Thanks for the shout out on that one. Linked up with Sean this week, and thanks to you, actually, Ken. I don't know if he told you that you had suggested my name a little bit, but I'll be in town over the weekend and sticking around and hopping on with Sean on Monday and Tuesday. So I appreciate you doing that.
Happy to do
looking forward to it.
Good stuff.
Looking forward to it. I haven't talked a lot with Sean before, but should be fun.
Hey, wanted to get your perspective. So I don't know how much City High you watched this year, if you got out there to see them. So got to know Mitch Moore when he was over here at Roosevelt. Our kids actually went to the same daycare before he moved over and took over the City High program. He's done a great job, but he tends to run a little bit hot. Tim Dwight's been in our studio before, and as Ken got to know, Timmy D runs a little bit hot. I'm just envisioning that sideline coming up this fall with Tim Dwight pacing up and down and Mitchell Moore pacing up and down. Referees, those sideline judges going to have some work to get those guys back off the sideline, I'm going to guess.
I can tell you, I've gotten to know Mitch pretty well over the last 2.5 years, roughly. And I can tell you he gets pretty hot because he cares a lot. I'm a big fan of Mitch. He's been super helpful, and I've been around the Iowa City program a little bit, watching a few guys that are either fringe D1 or just full on D1 guys. I know Parker Sutherland is headed to UNI this coming fall, a tight end in the 25 class. I think he's super underrated. I think he's 6'8" even. If he doesn't play tight end, you can make him into a left tackle. I'm really excited about him. Bobby Bacon was their quarterback this last season, and he's got a little Mahomes to him. I was honestly pretty disappointed he never got a D1 offer. He's headed to Pittsburgh State. He's going to be fun to watch. He just can really zip the ball in there. And of course, they've got a lineman headed to Northern Illinois, so that program is doing just fine. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Tim affects things down there, what he can impart on the kids. But they've got some other young guys coming up too. Dawson Call is actually a legacy recruit. Kent Call's son, who was a running back in the 90s, and Dawson's a hard hitter himself. He could end up on defense this year too, playing both ways, and he's got some real potential. So big fan of Mitch and the hire and what he's done with the Little Hawk.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we watched it firsthand with one of the city schools here, took Roosevelt and built them up. And all of a sudden kids wanted to come out and be a Rough Rider. And maybe that wasn't the case necessarily before he took the job and really got involved in the community. So we know the type of person that he is, and certainly a good hire there. Well, speaking of hire, didn't go your way. Obviously, when companies merge, one of the unfortunate parts is there's going to be change. And that was the case with Rivals and the On3 Media Network. So did you see this coming? I mean, obviously, when you get wind that, the companies are merging, you have to wonder in the back of your mind, I would imagine, Elliot, what's in store for you. And obviously, it didn't go your way, and you've been doing some really good work over there, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. It's been tough. This is actually the second time I've been laid off in 3 years. The first one was with a different radio company, and that was a budget thing. And this time it's a merger. And man, you guys, I hate being unemployed. I hate it so much. Between not having the consistency of a job, and obviously the paycheck is tough too. Luckily, Pat Vint, the guy who was the owner of Hawkeye Beacon, really ensured that I'm going to be taken care of.
Good for him.
So I'm doing okay there. Pat's a great guy. I couldn't endorse him more, and haven't worked with him. But yeah, I mean, we found out about the merger via Twitter, and it was. I have nothing against Rivals. We'll say that. Josh Helmholt, who's the director of operations there, has treated me very well as well. And man, I'm really grateful for this opportunity. This is, my previous gig in radio was good, but this really, I feel like, catapulted me to the next level. And part of that is you guys having me on and being on with KXNO. So I am really grateful at the end of the day. Doesn't make it, or it doesn't mean it doesn't suck, Yeah. So still in the job search and hoping I can find something here soon. But we're making it. We're making it, and got a few other things in the works, and so we're making things happen. I'm definitely not sitting on my hands here, that's for sure.
Well, Elliot, with that, I mean, do you want to be in the Hawkeye beat? Was that just the job that lined up for you? When you kind of envision things and looking forward, there's so many sites out there, Iowa guy that wants to be on the Hawkeye beat, are you open to kind of a bunch of different things?
I'm pretty open. I've actually lived in Madison, Wisconsin before. I'm sorry, Iowa fans. I would love to go up to Madison, cover the Badgers.
Yeah.
Would love to stay on the Iowa beat too. Colorado is a state that's kind of called my name a little bit.
Nice.
Girlfriend and I both love Austin, Texas. It's one of those situations where I got to balance things out with her too, because got to put a ring on it here soon.
Uh-huh, boy.
But got to balance things out. She's got a job that she really loves in Cedar Rapids. So we're figuring things out. And I'm pretty much open to anything. The Iowa beat is something that's comfortable, but I feel like I could definitely continue to grow in and expand whatever I do next. So we'll see what happens. But I feel a lot better about it this time than I did, like I said, 2.5 years ago when the same thing happened. Just much more prepared, and I guess seasoned, experienced, if you will.
Obviously, unless things work out that you're part of the Hawkeye Beat, you'll miss the McCollum era as he takes over for Fran McCaffrey. So, two-parter. Your thoughts on what do you remember? What will you remember about covering Fran McCaffrey's team? And then what do you think Hawkeye fans have to look forward to with their new men's basketball coach?
I think what I'll remember most is the pace. I think that's what a lot of people remember with Fran, and what they scored a lot of points. And, with that, I'm really excited to see what Josh Dix does this coming year, for example. I mean, he was just having to do just about everything for that team last season, and he has such a high ceiling. I'm really excited to see what he does. I'm excited for Peyton Sandfort too, whether that ends up him getting an opportunity in the NBA or if it's overseas. And the Price had an awesome season this year too. Getting to know some of these guys on this team has been a real blessing. Price and Peyton are both just first-class guys. Obviously both being from the Waukee area. I got to know a couple members of the staff too, and Matt Gatens and Tristan Spurlock, both really good people as well. Excited to see what Fran and Tristan do out at Penn, and see what's next for Matt. But I would say that those are the things that I would probably remember the most. But this coming season, man, I assuming I'm on the or I'm finding a way to get on the Iowa beat, I am really looking forward to see how Sturtz, Fulgaris, and Hobson all mesh. Plus what the staff does with the point guard and the forward position, as you know, Tyler Tashman reported this morning that Ashton Williamson decommitted. So and also I'm really excited about Trevin Yerock. I know he's a Valley guy that you guys obviously know a little bit, and I think that addition is honestly pretty underrated. I was at the 3SSB event this what was it, a couple weeks ago. And really, talking to a few people about how things are going with this new staff, I had several folks tell me, man, I think that Yerock addition was super underrated. I think that they got a steal. So I don't know. I don't know that he plays a ton of minutes this year by any means. Offensively, I think the skill set's there. Defensively is the concern just because it's not 4A basketball anymore, right? So that'll be interesting. I will say it wouldn't shock me if Yerock sees the floor in his first year. And I'm excited to see who, jumps out. Isaiah Howard's the guy that Ben McCollum just continues to rave about. Tavion Banks, I think, is going to be a fan favorite as the guy who's a really good defender. So this team, I'm excited to see how the potential all comes together. And I think Sturtz is going to be awesome. I think Fulgaris is going to be awesome. And if Hudson can really get going shooting, he might be the perfect complement to them too.
Peyton Sandfort, you brought him up. Did you guys have any inkling at all just how hurt that he was? I mean, Trent and I, we obviously knew there was something there, but we didn't know the extent. And when you find out, just how bad it was and what he played through in order to be on the floor, because he knew his team needed him and they were better with him on the floor. It kind of hits a little differently when you finally clued into, just the extent of his injuries in his final year.
Yeah, I really do think that. Well, I mean, people just really didn't know, right? I mean, I tweeted out, there was a what athlete embodies toughness to you? And I quote tweeted it and posted a picture of Peyton, probably with a few weeks to go in the season. And people really came after me just because they didn't know. And I mean, it's easy to get frustrated when you're so passionate about a team, right? So I get it. But at the same time, we did know. At least I had the inklings and had heard a few things here and there about his health status. But I think that it was just really an embodiment of who Peyton is. He's going to grit through it for his team and for himself, and he wants to win so bad. And I'm glad he got to go out on the note that he did, scoring 30 points and looking like the Peyton Sandfort we know him to be. And he actually... I think this is after the Nebraska game. He came up to me and thanked me. He's like, "Thanks for the tweets, man." So
really?
It was just kind of cool. People don't get to see those sides of the athletes too, and that us media members get to build relationships with these guys. And Peyton was one of the better guys on the beat, and you see the passion on the court. You see what he's capable of, and we only got to see it in flashes this season, unfortunately. But only Hawkeye to have a triple double, like. You gotta honor this kid, and you gotta be grateful for what he did during his time in Iowa City too.
You mentioned the Williamson deal. Now, I know you got to know a bunch of the staff members that came in from Drake, and he still got some contacts, definitely, as we know, Elliot. Do we read into that somebody else is coming, that Williamson got a better offer? What do we read into it that suddenly this guy that was committed had the commitment up on his Instagram page, and now that's not happening? Do you read into it that maybe Iowa, maybe they found somebody else out there in the transfer portal?
I had heard the rumblings of it coming, and a couple days ago, and I reached out to a few people still with the program, and I haven't heard anything back. I'll tell you that. So I don't know that I would read into it super deeply at this point, just because I don't have the facts. But that's a good way to think about it. It's an optimistic way to think about it. Of course, you guys and I talked about Keza Giffa fairly recently. And who knows if that comes together. I guess my read of it is that Iowa's probably in a position to add somebody else. That's what would make sense. And again, that's speculation on my part. They were in a good spot with Giffa. It just, came down to some things behind the scenes where they had to get things figured out. So I guess that's something that would make a lot of sense. Either that or this staff is really, really focused on finding the right fit personality wise and finding the right fit in the locker room. And maybe that just didn't line up ultimately, that they got talking to him more. I just don't know. So it's speculation for me at this point in time.
Good stuff, Elliot. Appreciate you coming on and doing this for us and what you've done for Trent and I over the last few months. Best of luck to you. Break a leg on Monday and Tuesday. You never know where it may lead here on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. But best of luck to you, Elliot. We're rooting for you. Thanks for doing this, brother. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Yep, you do the same. Elliot Clough, as we take a look at the Hawkeyes and what lies ahead for him.
Elliot Clough, good stuff out of him. And he'll be with us on the Iowa Sports Radio Network, kicking off the week next week on the boarding show on the network. Well, speaking of Giffa, we got some news right after we finished talking with Elliot about that, where Giffa is going to land, and the latest on Iowa. We'll do that as we come back. More Hawkeye talk. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Trent Condon back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast side, 5-star reviews all helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Giffa, we've been wondering. He took visit to USC, visit to Iowa, didn't take a visit for like 3 weeks, then took a visit to Seton Hall, what is widely known as the least funded NIL program in the Big East. And as we saw the decommitment of Ashton Williamson, suddenly the speculation started. Well, maybe this is where Iowa is trending. Maybe they found some more money for Giffa, or maybe his asking price had come down. And right as that speculation was going and continuing, well, Giffa commits to USC. So take that one off, at least for now, that is not going to be happening, that Giffa, the high point guard, is going to be ending up in the Big Ten at USC, which feels weird in its own right. So that is the latest on that front. I have some news that we're going to talk about a little bit more tomorrow, and that is that Coach McCollum's son, Ben McCollum's son, Peyton, is going to be part of the squad coming in as a walk-on for season number 1. I know for a lot of people that's going to lead to some concerns. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we have some more time tomorrow on the program. Tom Kakert also going to join us from Hawkeye Report. And what other name I want to throw out there, a kid from in the state of Iowa that is committed to play and is signed to play at the Division I level at North Florida. And that is Mason Watkins, a kid from West Burlington. Talking a little bit about him, played for Martin Brothers. We'll get into that a little bit more and talk some more basketball coming up on tomorrow's program. That is coming your way. It's that time. We're getting ready to flip the calendar to June. That means recruiting season is going to be at the forefront, and we'll have you covered each and every day as commitments are happening, and there will be plenty of those. We will be with you right here on Locked On Hawkeyes. Your team every day. That's what we do on Locked On Hawkeyes. Thanks for being with us here today. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Go Hawks.